This is for the Public Service Commission. It's on their docket. It's for outfit out of Bozeman, haul some garbage within the city of Bozeman and passengers in Gallatin, Madison, and Park counties. We've got deputies here, they might be able to answer the one question. This is a gal lives down there south of the interstate and wanted to get a speed limit on that road down there. She calls it mile markers 90 and 91, Highway 287. 90 and 91 is here. Is it, when it gets past the interstate, does it start off at 1, 2 or something like that?
Yeah,
No, sir.
yeah, it starts over.
Yeah, like 90. It goes 107, then it goes,
Yeah, like 99, but then, but way down would be.
when it gets into jail.
After you cross the interstate.
Yeah, I'd have to see, but I know it starts over, I can't.
That's what I thought, and she said 90 and 91, so I don't, but
She-
there's a map here where they want the speed reduction and stuff.
Well, she's got the river on one side of her and those rock cliffs on the other side.
Oh, yeah,
Tells you
that-
right
I know
quick
where
where
that's
she's
at.
at.
That is
It's a
correct.
pretty bad blind spot, but I don't know. That's, is that up to you guys? It's state highway and all
It's,
that.
yeah, it's a highway.
Yeah.
Actually,
But is it 90 and 91?
It is
Yeah,
up
it,
to us.
it is.
Yeah,
And
it
the
is.
reason it is, the reason I know is we've had accidents in that area before, and they've called off 90 and 91, and I've got to 90, 91 here, and there's nothing. And then I
Okay.
drove down there and it was. So she may be correct. I
Also, don't they call it I-287 and Highway 2?
I believe it's Montana 2/287,
Yeah.
or maybe the other way
Oh,
around.
But
something like
Yeah.
that.
After the interstate, it
Yeah.
changes just to 287, I think. is what it is.
Yeah, it's considered 2 east and 2 west.
And it's very possible she was directed to us by MDT. This is absolutely county commission purview. And that's the new legislation we've talked about concerning the Winston change to the
Right.
speed limit from 2013.
I mean, it is a bad spot. It's very tight.
Oh, yeah.
And with the guardrail and everything, you know, and it's kind of hilly and turny, so I think
And she doesn't
It is
like
a
the
bad
Jake
spot.
backs either.
maybe you guys want to drive down there and just look at it, you know.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
We can also request a speed study there. Depending on what that turns up, MDT could even step in and change it. So we have a couple of different options to address this for her.
Another speed zone, Corey. Anyway, we'll bring that back up again. Let's get on with the 145 with, my glasses back on here.
Pass that letter down, please, Franklin.
Oh, okay. Airport Teamsters, Corey Swanson, County Attorney, 56-cent COLA raise / decision.
Do you want us at the table?
That's fine.
Big kids table?
The big kids table.
I apologize. Again. You guys
Oh.
invite, you invite me to a meeting on a Wednesday
We're gonna have to talk
because they're closed
after
on
this meeting
Wednesdays.
out back.
Yeah, all right.
Whoops, that's on tape.
Yeah.
Whoa. I'll learn to open my mouth.
The hard way.
Okay, whoever wants to start.
So, we brought this up last week about the 56-cent COLA raise. We were under the impression from the December 22nd meeting that the COLA increase was going to include our sworn deputies and the elected officials. The agreement that we had signed also included the 56-cent raise, and that was what the union had agreed to. The union was left out of the rest of the communications that happened after that. We weren't part of the sheriff's lawsuit. Technically, the only part that included the union was the statutory setting of the scale in the CBA. So that's why we wanted to bring this up and ask what you guys are doing with the 56-cent COLA raise.
My understanding was that they were getting it, except it was proportional.
Correct. And that was my understanding as well.
Isn't that the way it was, Corey, or?
So, when the first, I guess the meeting, which was December 22nd, that basically laid out the settlement, when it was done, as you recall, I went back and watched the video, and in January, we spent a lot of time talking about what was the agreement. Ultimately settled on this written agreement, settlement agreement, which we filed in court. And if you remember, when I came back in early January to the commission, one of the things that we talked about was the union's approval letter from the December meeting. In that approval letter, the union specifically did reference the additional 56 cents raise for elected officials. So, and Aaron and I talked about this at the time, and so I have no doubt that they believed that what the agreement was for the elected officials at some point when the settlement was done, the elected officials to get another 56-cent per hour raise, which would translate to a sheriff's wage, which would go incrementally down to deputies. I have no doubt that that's what they thought the settlement was. However, I don't think that's what the settlement was. That's where we were. So I remember I asked the commission about this issue. It was the last issue, and I said, from the video, it's not clear to me that this was part of the settlement. So then I went back. Aaron was able to find the spot in the YouTube video from the 22nd that applied to it, so I went and rewatched it Friday, and back to the same place. It was discussed earlier in the whole discussion on the 22nd. When we went to the vote of the motion of what the commission voted for, the commission voted for an increase for the elected officials to the base wage of $46,000 and then various adjustments from there. The elected officials' deputies would then get wages increased based on their percentages at 90%. The non-sworn personnel in the sheriff's office would get the 56-cent raise, which was already in the budget. It was basically unfreezing that. The other county employees in this building would get the 56-cent raise, and the sworn deputies would get their wages based on that percentage of the sheriff's salary that we all put in. There was no discussion or mention or vote on adding another 56 cents per hour wage increase for the elected officials after the fact. And if you recall, I came back again in the end of January and said, what are we doing on this? And the question was, do we just say the 46,000 base wage for elected officials, does that replace the 56 cent per hour increase? Because it actually was more than 56 cent per hour increase to get to the 46,000 base number for the sheriff and the other elected officials. As I believe the commission discussed, it was, let's go with this, and then when it's all settled, we're going to go back and we'll be shortly amending the budget, which the commission just did, and we'll be beginning the process again of looking at wages and salaries, because we're almost back into starting the cycle again for next year's budget. So I think it's clear that that's what the commission agreed to. I'm not saying the commission shouldn't give a raise. I'm saying I don't think the commission did give the raise that we're specifically talking about. And we're talking about an additional 56 cents per hour for elected officials after the settlement was implemented. In other words, the number would be $46,000 a year, and the raise would be on top of that. So I don't think the commission ever approved that. I haven't seen evidence that they did. If the commission wants to, you're certainly free to do that. I don't think at this point you're obligated to implement it based on actions you took as we settled all this. Now, Erin raises a good point. She'll probably talk about that next, about what happened prior to this lawsuit being filed. The lawsuit was filed in October. It appears to be in September. The commission was talking about doing this raise, okay? Because the raise was for all the county employees essentially. And so the commission in September was moving towards implementing that 56 cents per hour for really all the county employees, including elected officials. Then the lawsuit was filed in October. There was a union in grievance at some point in there, and I'm not by any means the expert on what all happened with that. But since that decision, and I don't even know if it was a vote, it may have been a vote in September, but since then, you had a lawsuit that then caused everybody to go, oh, we've got to fix the deputies' percentages issue to bring them in line with the statute. In doing that, the elected officials' wages went up more than 56 cents. So even if there's an argument, and there is an argument, I don't know if it's completely convincing, but there's an argument that the commission in September was going towards this elected officials' wage increase. But the actions that it took to settle this lawsuit went beyond the 56 cents. So I think that's where we are. Now, if the commission says, nope, we're going forward with it, or that'll be item 1 on the agenda for the compensation committee, then I think the commission can do that. I'm not sure that you're obligated to, I shouldn't say that. I'm pretty sure you're not obligated to do that at this point, based on the actions you took in December, which settled this lawsuit. But Aaron may disagree with that.
So, as far as the timeline goes, because Corey was not part of this, March 26th of last year, we filed the grievance. On the 2nd of April, we received documentation from the agreement on communications between Mako and Broadwater. Mike Sasted telling you guys to fix the issue with the $1 an hour. We also, on the 5th, we had the salary resolution for the fiscal year 2013, 2014. On the 8th of April, you guys denied the grievance from Broadwater County. We appealed it in the end of April. Your response, and we appealed it, asked to go to a 2-on-2 panel. The commissioner's response was to skip the 2-on-2 panel and go straight to arbitration. So we agreed to go to arbitration, and then for whatever reason, I decided that, you know, well, let's take another run at it, because I don't feel that we ever did have a conversation on it, and we didn't, by that point, have a conversation. So I called Laura, we had a discussion, we set up a meeting. Well, we attempted many times to set up a meeting. June 3rd, June 17th, we finally set up a meeting, for July 8th, I believe, because Mako, the attorney, got hurt in June, so we had to push the meeting off. Then we were able to get Michelle Gary on the conference call on the July meeting. In July, we decided to go forward with pushing for the committee for the public safety department. I attended several meetings over the summer trying to get that pushed through. That did not happen. So then we started meetings with Mako. You guys set on county commissioners on September 8th approved the preliminary budget. That was with the 56 cents. And you guys decided at that point to hold it off until the grievance was rectified. On the 22nd of October was our first meeting with Mako. November 6th, we met again with Mako. And finally, by December 22nd was when I believe Mike Sasted sent us the wage resolution that Friday before that Monday meeting. We finally got it towards the end of it. So at that meeting was when we discussed the 56 cents. We gave you guys the signed document from the deputies saying that yes, we will release the 56 cents to the entire county on the grounds that we get the 56 cents as well, following the Me Too clause in the contract and everything else that we've gone through. And then we found out that the 56 cents was now not part of the agreement. So I feel that all along, we up to December 22nd thought for sure that the 56 cents was coming, because the COLA is completely different from the lawsuit and from the resolution that we worked on with Mako to solve the wage grievance. So we were left out, or however you want to put it, that the 56 cents was never part of the settlement with the sheriff's office. And we didn't agree to that. We agreed to release the 56 cents so that the people in the county got it before January 1st. And then we were left out.
Can I ask questions?
Mm-hmm.
What was the grievance all originally about in March 26th?
About the, sheriff's scale being out of
Compliance.
compliance, yeah. So we had deputies making more than other deputies, and that was all because when the county gave raises in the past, they gave it to everyone at the same, it was $1 raise, they all got $1 instead of by statute of the sheriffs.
I have to interject, though, it does go back farther than any of us
Right.
to an allotment that was erroneously given that threw everything out of whack, although slightly. The arbitration, that incident, those incidents
Right.
just made it more glaring
Yeah,
as
it was
time
just
went on.
continually compounding.
Right.
So that's why we decided to stop going to arbitration and try to fix it going forward, instead of having arbitration after arbitration. Because the county did say at that time, if they lost in arbitration, they'd still be taking us to court.
If,
I was sure that 56 went, because I remember talking about the proportion for the deputies. you
Right.
know, in proportion, just like they would any other raise with the sheriff's,
Right.
so I thought that was.
No, that's what our understanding was as well, but the 46,000 did not include the 56-cent raise.
how does it,
Sorry, go ahead.
how does it shake out? Okay, you give Brenda the 56 cents, and then they all get a portion, but they
Yes.
don't get the full
No.
56 cents.
No,
Okay.
and that was what our wage resolution was from,
Right.
I mean, going forward, anytime that you guys give a raise, it has to go according to that scale. And my sworn deputies know that, they know that they're tied to the sheriff's wage, but they get a percentage of the increase.
Just wanting to be
Yeah.
sure in my
Yeah.
mind.
Because we don't wanna compound the issue
No,
further.
So-
been there.
How
Yes.
much, when Brenda's wage went to 46 base, how much did that pay go up per hour?
There's
$4, almost,
Right,
So we went
$4.12 or something.
but,
Significant.
yeah, we were on the heels of this before they were talking about the 56 cents in September, before they agreed on it. They knew, because that's why the county agreed to hold off on it until we figured it out.
So, number one, I think this whole timeline is right, and I think her explanation of the issues is right, because it's both the union grievance saying that these wages are out of whack, combined with a lawsuit from the sheriff's office saying this salary scale is wrong, okay? Even though those are two separate issues, and they were resolved with one settlement. The settlement gave the sheriff well over 56 cents per hour wage increase, which, if we're enforcing the statute on those percentages that deputies can get, translated to a raise for the deputies. Now, did they all get exactly what percentage they might have gotten? I don't know, because the starting point of where they were pre-December was not legal. The second thing is the issue of the union approval letter agreeing to waive the Me Too clause. Well, they have to waive the Me Too clause if you're tying wages increases on this side, or for non-sworn personnel requiring a wage increase for sworn deputies. They have to, because it's contrary to the law. The sworn deputies' wages are tied to one thing: sheriff's salary. That's it. So the Me Too clause had to be waived for that portion. The corrections personnel, who are the detention personnel, still got the 56 cent per hour wage increase. And if there's a Me Too clause that says that those non-sworn personnel and employees on this side, if they're tied together for a wage increase, that's not contrary to statute. So that could be part of the agreement. So really what it comes down to, I think, is this. If the change of salary, increase of salary, settled the wage alignment that was contrary to statute, and that settled the lawsuit, and also settled the union grievance, I think we accomplished, we killed two birds with one stone there. What I think the union is saying is, regardless of how that got corrected, we still expected the 56 cent per hour raise, not for a raise to align us with the statute, but because of a COLA increase. Is that what you're saying? So that's really where we're at. Everybody else gets a COLA increase because of the 56 cents per hour. And so they're saying we should have gotten the COLA increase because of everybody else getting it. I don't think you're required to do it because the Me Too clause cannot require the commission to increase the pay for the sworn deputies. It has to be tied to the sheriff's salary. So that's, if you want to go ahead and do an increased COLA raise for the elected officials, that would operate to give them the COLA raise by percentage. But if you're saying we already accomplished that by increasing the elected officials' salaries in December, then that's it.
Now, is the sheriff not tied into the clerk and recorder's salary?
So by statute, those elected officials have a uniform number they start with, 46,000. Then by statute, the sheriff gets another 2,000 on top of that.
For coroner, and then,
No, the coroner is on top of that.
right, okay.
But then when you look at the percentages that the deputies receive, it's based on the 46,000 plus 2,000, so 48,000, and then you go 95% for under sheriff, 90% on the way down the line. Then they can get longevity, but that's based on their individual service.
So, if we did do this, that shakes out that Brenda's salary doesn't match the rest of the elected officials.
You'd have to
You'd have
do
all
all
the
those,
elected officials.
yeah, you have to do them all uniformly. We agree on that.
That's about it.
All right. So what's it take us to do?
I don't know, I haven't done that math.
Let me add one more thing. So the original approval letter said, we agree to a one-time increase of the Me Too clause. We also agreed to this knowing that we're gonna get another 56 cent per hour wage increase later, or at least the elected officials will. And I brought that to everyone's attention, I said, this isn't reflecting the agreement. So the second letter from the union, dated February 3rd, says, Teamsters Union Local Number 2, representing Broadwater County Sheriff's deputies, has reviewed the proposed solution for the salary increases of Broadwater County Sheriff's Office. The union is in favor of this solution and believes it's the right course of action in resolving the wage grievance, and also rectifying the CBA wage scale by bringing it into compliance with state statute. The union agrees to a one-time waiver of the Me Too clause for sworn deputies involved in the proposed salary fix and adjustment to the wage scale. Teamsters acknowledges this letter of understanding does not include any claims for back wages. We put that in the agreement, back wages are. And this doesn't set a precedence, goes on from there. This agreement only pertains to a partial group of employees, the sworn employees, and does not include the non-sworn and sworn employees. The union cannot make changes to the language in the Me Too clause without the entire bargaining unit being addressed and represented. So what I understand this to mean is they're saying the Me Too clause is still in effect for non-sworn deputies tied to wage increases on this side of the building, which is fine. When it says it agrees to a one-time waiver of the Me Too clause for sworn deputies, I mean, that's fine if they agree to a one-time waiver. I think statutorily you can't enforce it. It has to be tied to the sheriff's salary. But the first paragraph says they approve it and they believe it's the right course of action in resolving the wage grievance and rectifying the CBA wage scale. So I think this letter says both items were resolved by this agreement. So, I don't know. I think it's clear, but I mean, obviously there's a difference of opinion here, so.
The wage resolution and the COLA had nothing to do with one another. And that's our stance from day one, and you guys know that, because the wage resolution and the fix that we got from Mike Staystad was that bringing the, wages into compliance by statute. We never addressed the 56-cent COLA raise. As far as
Yeah.
that letter of understanding, because the COLA is completely different. It's a cost of living raise, not setting the fix. Had we settled this grievance in March, then, and you guys offered the 56 cents in September, then it would have went to them through the percentages. And that's how we understood it. The fact that the sheriff filed her lawsuit in October, we weren't part of that. We were only, I believe that also, and Carla says on that video, that was to help force your guys' hand in fixing the wage resolution. She also had other things in that lawsuit that didn't involve us. That was the only thing that did involve us. And it didn't discuss the COLA.
Somewhere along the line, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a talk about the 56 cents because it's gonna be proportionalized.
Right.
That's the part that sticks in my mind all the time, so we had to, I don't know if we didn't approve it, we definitely talked about it then.
Right, yeah, because Mike Staystad offered us two solutions. It was the solution including the 56 cents, or the solution and nobody got the 56 cents. And that's on, she has that right there.
It was actually, the second one was the elected officials and
Right.
deputies exclusively,
Mhm.
yeah.
But we agreed to solution number one that day.
Which includes the 56 cents.
Yes.
That's what's in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I may be wrong, but, I just stuck in there all the time
Right,
when we talked
and
about
that-
it last
and
week, I
then-
thought that's the way it was.
And the other thing we had discussed that day was actually getting an outside source to fix the wages from July 1 forward and do the calculations. And you guys, some point along the way after that, decided not to go ahead with that, I believe. So, I mean, I left that day knowing that from July 1, we were going to have the $46,000 base, the wages corrected, the 56 cents added into that correction going forward, and all of those calculations would be done by someone outside.
So the 56-cent increase goes back to July.
When you guys did the COLA for everyone.
One thing I do have to interject is, the day we all sat down with Mike Saystad, that was a working meeting. There were no decisions,
Right.
there was just a lot of discussion. And it was related to a counter proposal
Right.
that became a part of the settlement. So I do think, we all walked away with different ideas. And then it really does come down to what is the final decision in a public meeting
Right.
that determines, what we do moving ahead. I'm just gonna throw out what my thoughts are and ask you to address them,
Sure.
if you would, and just to share this with you guys. When Mike brought his proposal forward to us at that working meeting on whatever date, if you looked at, I'll share this with you, I don't know if you brought yours. When you looked at the different deputies, what we saw was, an increase of $500, $300, $200, $186 for deputies who have been with us the longest. And Mike said, and I agreed with him and did so on the video on the 22nd of December, that he recommended that we follow through with the additional 56-cent raise so that nobody was left making less than they would have been. And he gave the two options. The second option was do not give elected officials the 50-cent per hour raise, and that would of course trickle down to the deputies. We didn't, I agreed with Mike at that day for the 56 cents, but again, no decision was made. And his reasoning was, since the raises for the higher ranks in the sheriff's office are nominal under the proposal. So that was the base we were working off of, but if you'll recall, also that very same day, Mike said, there are errors in my calculations. He didn't have longevity correct, And there were some other errors.
Right.
So the following Monday, the sheriff and her attorney brought forward a counter proposal. It was kind of an 11th hour counter proposal. What it did is accepted everything that Mike said except for the coroner's salary. Mike had suggested $2,000 for the sheriff as coroner and every deputy $1,800. The argument was there's a deputy who will be making less money, so the coroner for deputies was raised to almost double, $3,400. I did oppose this, and the reason is we pay more for coroner than either Jefferson or Lewis and Clark County, which are both, Jefferson's double our size and Lewis and Clark County is, I don't know how many times our size. So it didn't make sense to me. But that's what we agreed on as a commission, and we did so that nobody was making less.
Right.
Then we get the calculations from Debbie. This is with the correct longevity, all the different pieces. You guys and your payroll is extremely complicated, as you well know. So she got all the little pieces put together, and now when you look at the net difference, everybody's coming out quite a ways ahead of where they would have with the 56-cent raise. Except for one deputy, but he has the option of getting the coroner pay if he goes through coroner training and coming out far ahead like some of his fellows. So for that reason, I'm questioning the 56 cents at this point. I absolutely stand by what I said prior to these new numbers, but with new information, it's not holding water for me anymore. So I guess that's my comment. What are your rebuttals?
Well, I don't have a rebuttal. I mean, for me, it's not whether it's a good idea or not, it's what was agreed to at that time. And I don't see anything that the commission agreed to it, and I think what you pointed out is probably part of why you didn't agree to it. Mike's idea and proposal was the discussion point, but everybody keeps saying, well, this is what Mike said. Well, but Mike isn't the county commission. You know, this was a good discussion point. It was a very helpful, smart way for us to resolve it, but ultimately, I don't think the commission approved every line of this proposal, so, I don't know. But I don't, if the evidence was different, I'd be sitting here today saying, you guys approved it, you gotta do it, and I just don't see the evidence that you actually did approve it. Do you
I guess,
disagree?
yes,
She disagrees.
absolutely.
She disagrees.
Okay, here's my rebuttal.
Okay. Let's see. My rebuttal would be, it's not about the money. It's not the 56 cents. My deputies are happy that we actually got a working percentage system in that's going to keep them under statute, state statute. I believe that we worked really hard with the commission to come up with that. We staved off arbitration and going to court for legal hearing, everything else. But I guess I fall in that in the contract, it does say if a COLA is awarded to all other employees, then the sworn deputies get it as well. And I know that's the Me Too clause that everyone's had heartache over, but we're still under that contract. We're still riding under that contract. It's still in force until we go to negotiations and discuss it. And in the past, it does seem that the contract hasn't been taken serious. Things have not been done according to the contract or state statute. So once again, here we are with another issue. A COLA increase was awarded, and then it was denied to the deputies. Granted, yes, we did all this other stuff that occurred, but you guys knew in September when you agreed to it that the wage grievance was on the table. It's been on the table since March of 2014, and it is settled, it is fixed, but the COLA increase occurred. It occurred. You guys discussed it in September and said everyone would get it. You guys approved your budget in October. We discussed it again in December. And here we are again in March, a year down the road, and we're still having contract issues, is how I see it.
Corey, what would be your answer to the Me Too clause portion of this? Yes, we are still under the contract. Yes, the Me Too clause would have been probably our you know, the part that would have worked the best for the county on potentially winning a case on this because it was illegal.
The
What would
Me Too
be-
clause wasn't illegal, the structure was illegal.
Right, but the Me Too clause added to it because it didn't allow us to fix it.
Right.
And even yet, the Me Too clause would state that the 56-cent raise has to go to everybody equally at 56
Right.
cents. So does that give us any defense as a county, to make a decision not to extend the COLA?
I don't think you can do it, giving everybody the 56 cents.
We can't
By law.
stay legal, right?
The deputies' wages are tied to the sheriff's wage, the sworn deputies. That's it. So if the contract is, according to the union, still in effect, that says they have to get a COLA increase, it's not, it's contrary to statute. Their COLA increase, their wages, their everything is tied to remaining within that fixed percentage of the sheriff's salary. 85% to 90% for the deputies and 95% for the undersheriff. So that's the mechanism for raising the wages for the sworn deputies, is you raise the sheriff's salary, that's it. Unless they're within, let's say someone's at 88 and there's a way to bump them to 89 or something like that. But within those percentages, you can't deviate from that. So if the argument is the Me Too clause is still in effect, I think we've all reached the point of understanding that if it's contrary to statute, it can't be enforced. Secondly, even if it was in effect, this letter of understanding from the union says, the union's in favor of this solution, it's the right course of action in resolving the wage increase, or the wage grievance, and also rectifying the CBA wage scale. So here they're saying both matters are resolved by the settlement, and then they say the union agrees to a one-time waiver of the Me Too clause for sworn deputies involved in the proposed salary fix and adjustments to the wage scale. So even if it was in effect and enforceable, this letter that they gave, which we attached as exhibit to our settlement and filed in court, says they agreed to a waiver. So I mean, I understand we're still disputing the contract, but the reason that we're still disputing the contract is because the union agreed to it, and now they're coming back and saying there needs to be another increase. So clearly what needs to happen from here on out, for all years of Broadwater County, is if the deputies are asking for an increase, everybody must be aware that that means the sheriff's wage needs to be looked at, not just the sheriff's wage, but all those 5 elected officials, unless we go to this Public Safety Commission, which wasn't successful. So that's the mechanism that's available to the county, unless within that 90 to 85% increase, if there's a way, if somebody gets moved up, which those are basically set based on their longevity and, or they're not their longevity, but their position. So that's it.
So how do you handle this then? Because if we take Brenda up 56 cents, then you take the clerk and recorder, the clerk of court, and everybody else, and their deputies up that much more.
Correct.
So they're actually getting 2 COLAs in a year.
Yes, the argument from the union's point of view is that wasn't a COLA increase, that was a realignment of their base salary to fix the out of statute deputy wages. So they're arguing that wasn't really the COLA increase, they missed the COLA increase, that's what they're arguing.
Go ahead, Wayne.
If I may, I mean, I guess I'm a little confused. In the aspect of whether or not there's some confusion, because in 1974, the state of Montana rewrote the Constitution on the office of the sheriff. In 1974, no longer became a constitutional office, and we became not deputy elected officials as we were prior to 1974. We became, basically, as Michelle Pugary has expressed several times, we are now county employees. So my aspect of this is, I understand where the being tied to the elected official aspect is, but still, the fact of the matter is, we're still county employees. And if we're provided, if one county employee is provided one thing, then even as deputy sheriffs, we should be provided that same adequate and equal number. I understand the whole cosmetics of the statutory requirement, but just to get down to the mustard of this, we're still county employees, and we should be treated just as equally as anybody else, whether, you know, anybody in Doug's office or Justice of the Peace or Val's office, they all got their 56 cents. never in my career as a deputy sheriff, and this is coming on 15 years, have I ever got what everybody else has got. I've always got a percentage of that. I don't gripe, I don't complain. It's just part of the business, it's part of being attached to an elected official. But I think that we need to go back and say, okay, how far do you want to kick this can down the road? We need to fix it. We've come a long ways in fixing this problem. But the fact of the matter is, I sat in a meeting and I did hear where everybody, all the employees were gonna get 56-cent raise. I knew that was gonna equal out to about 51 cents or 50 cents or whatever it is for me. I didn't complain, but I sat in the meeting and I did hear it. And I think that's the important part, is it was brought up, it was said, and it was agreed upon at that time, and we had a big meeting, all the department heads up here, and it was discussed because of the fact is the grievance and the lawsuit, that everybody's 56 cents got put on hold. And now we're trying to backpedal a little bit because of a wage increase. And I understand exactly where County Attorney Swanson's at, I understand exactly where Aaron's at. But the fact of the matter is that conversation did take place in this room and I was present for it. And I know that that's what was said. So, you know, my honest opinion is do what everybody, you know, it kind of goes back to the Simpson claim. This might not be the best way to do things, it might not be the most cost-effective way to do things. But we were told at one time that's what we were gonna get, and I think just as a relevance type thing, just to be treated fairly in the aspect of being a county employee with almost 15 years on the job here, I would like that same benefit as everybody else gets, and just to be treated fairly. And that's, I'm just leaving it at that, and you guys make a decision based on what you want, but, you know, I just had to put in my 2 cents on it.
I do have one question. So we do the 56 cents, already did for the rest of the employees. Now, does May 2 clause kick in because they're actually gonna get 2.56 cents?
No, it's just the people that were left out were the sworn deputies and the elected officials. I only care about the sworn deputies, but they happen to be tied to your wages.
You don't?
Yes. I don't represent them.
Just teasing.
But, yeah, so that's, we understand that it's gonna come by a percentage, it's not gonna be the full 56 cents. And we're not saying that anyone else, the county employees already got the 56 cents. We signed that letter releasing the 56 cents in December, so that they didn't have to wait any longer.
But by raising Brenda, that raises the rest of the elected officials.
Which you guys never did see, the 56-cent raise.
Two points that I want to make. I appreciate what Wynn said, and I think he's 100% right. However, I think a piece of this that needs to be remembered is you guys were overpaid for a lot of years.
Some of us.
Some of you.
Yeah, not all of
Yes, yes. And so that's where, you know, the fairness thing, we certainly are cognizant of that, but there's some other little pieces that come into play. The other thing is the last 2 years, we have worked very hard to get very nice large raises for our employees, by and large, because we feel that you guys in that department have been underpaid. I mean, there's been a revolving door for the sheriff's department, we all know it. One of the reasons is the wages. Last year it was 52 cents, if I'm not mistaken, this year was 56. And that was done with you guys in mind. So I hear what you said, Wynn, but, and everyone's gonna walk away hearing what they wanna hear, but from my perspective, this has nothing to do with you guys as individuals. We are looking at the county, in the overall scheme of things, and in no way denigrating you guys, treating you unfairly. Getting the wage fix in, has brought you guys all up to the good, beyond the 56 cents or what it would have been. So, regardless of our decision, we do honor you guys and appreciate all that you do, and I hope you know that.
So we're still locked heads.
How,
So which is better?
can I say something? How is it that we were overpaid? That, when we received that $1 an hour increase based on other employees that got it, went to arbitration, we won that. So we were brought up to what we were supposed to be. That wasn't us that didn't raise the sheriff's wages up to be correct. So the same 2 employees received their 56 cents COLA, and we didn't, so, I mean, how do you say we're overpaid? You can, they were overpaid then as well, if that's the way you wanna look at it.
What I was referring to is the statute that says you cannot make more
And
than
I understand
85 to
that.
90% of the sheriff's salary.
But
A
you're
lot of
basing
you
it
guys
off of
were
the
higher
dollar
than
that 2 employees got, that's why we got that dollar. How many years ago was that?
2013.
3, and they still got the 56 cents. We're only gonna get 48 cents if it were to be approved. But I guess, you know, cost of living is cost of living, you know, how does it go up for everybody else except for us? I mean, I got a 3-cent raise this year. That's all I got was 3 cents.
No. This is the-
See, the sheriff brought that up right after that agreement that time, that they were out of compliance, but nothing was accomplished from this end.
I
All that
understand that.
When this 56-cent thing first started, I was against it. I didn't think the county could afford the 56-cent COLA raise. But being it went through, it's there. I think it was too premature at the time, but that's all over with. So now, whatever it's gonna, and it's gonna cost quite a bit more, but looks to me like we're just stuck with it.
He only did receive a 3-cent raise. He went from 2005 to 2008.
The only reason why I got that 3 cents is because
Sheriff's
somewhere
wage.
along the way it was agreed that there was gonna be a senior deputy percentage. So really, I wouldn't have got anything if we'd have kept it at 85%. Instead, I make 87% of what a starting deputy makes after their first year. So I got 3 cents, and really, I wouldn't have got that if they didn't put that in there.
So what are you making now then?
2008 an hour.
Oh, I'm kinda glad you brought that up.
I mean, I could bring
Nick
over pay
Workhouse
stubs
didn't
too,
get a
if you
big
wanna look at it.
grade.
No, we
Jason
don't.
didn't. Jamie did not.
This is between the 56 cents on top and the settlement. This is current
He
to
feels 28.25.
this. So this is.
Is that
what I
56
did.
cents, or why does it have to go to elected officials every week again? Shouldn't it just go to the ones that didn't get it?
No, it doesn't, it would be, and the ones that didn't get it are the elected officials and the sworn deputies. So every employee that's not tied to an elected official's wage got the 56 cents.
Oh, I thought the elected official had it too, I didn't know.
Well, your salaries changed, but it was basically what happened when Mike put together this proposal. He tried to find a sheriff's salary level that when it went down the different percentages of deputies would not decrease their salaries, which is what it did, but the guys at the top end who had the percentages that were out of alignment with the statute, the result was they didn't really get much of a raise at all.
Right, yeah, I remember that. I threw it out there instead of going retroactive back, just went with it. It saved the county some money and everybody give a little. I guess I'm throwing out there, it's whatever.
Can I say one more thing? So
Please.
what is happening with the county is that I hold my position and where I'm at and what I do at a fairly high level. I have to put on a bulletproof vest. I've been shot at, I've been hit by a car. I signed up for that, I realized that. You have a detention officer that makes close to $1 less than one of our starting deputies. And if we don't get this, and next year say you don't get it, and he gets up, so at what point do I just shed the vest, I go back to detention, and, you know, I mean, that's a safer environment, it's a different job, it's just, I think everybody else is catching up to where, I'm not trying to dig on anybody else's jobs whatsoever, I think everybody has their own profession, but at what point does the, not the.
Detention
Mike's-
makes almost as much as I do.
It's that's what I'm saying too, but it's,
I mean, I have a pretty dangerous job myself in some aspects.
I hear you.
I get electrocuted.
The person at some point, you know, the person that vacuums the floors is gonna be making what a deputy sheriff makes if we continue down this road with not giving cost of living to everybody. I don't see why even elected officials, you guys deserve it, you deserve a cost of living. That's what a cost of living is all about, right? Is to keep up with the times. Am I wrong there, or am I correct? So how not everybody in the county deserves it when we get a cost of living?
Yeah, see, the
I mean,
national,
you got some federal people here, I'm sure they received the cost of living this year.
No, we did not. We haven't in years.
Well,
I think the national cost was 1.7 or something like that.
We don't do it.
But anyway, that's decided. I mean, once it went through.
One thing that I wanted to bring up, and this goes to you, Brandon, huge thank you. We have a comparison list here that's based on the difference between the 56 cent and the settlement. And I was looking at that mistakenly. So, I'm gonna back up a few steps here, Aaron. We have deputies who at 56 cents more per hour would have gotten a raise of about $1,000 a year, roughly. We have a deputy that's gonna get a raise instead without the 56 cents of $265. Another one that will be getting a raise of 186, and another one of 602. I did say earlier that if it was that the settlement alone kept some of you guys not making any kind of, not making a equal increase, that I would have supported Mike Saystad's suggestion of the 56 cent on top. So I'm going to step back and say that based on those three, we actually have 4 here that are making 3 cents more an hour, 30 some, 3 cents, and 18 cents more. So based on that, I think we don't have a choice but to follow Mike Saystad's suggestion of the 56 cents. I will also say, you know, if it was just you guys, it's a no-brainer. The hard part of this is giving it also to the elected officials. Some of us deserve it, some of us do not. And it's really, really hard to look at the amount of money and give that to elected officials that don't. I'm just saying that for commentary. For you deputies though, Brandon, thank you for bringing this up. I changed my mind.
Well, let's be clear, what we're changing here. Are you saying that you agreed to it in December, or you're saying you're agreeing to it now? 'Cause
I did agree to it in December based on the previous numbers, but it doesn't look like the new numbers are that different than Mike's. A couple of them are different. They're not different enough though to justify a 3 cent per hour raise for a deputy when his coworker anywhere in this county got 56 cents.
I understand
It just
that.
doesn't
I just mean,
compute for me.
are you saying you're agreeing to it now, or you did agree to it in December? Because I don't,
Is there a difference? I
yeah,
mean,
well, I guess from a point of view of decision-making, I don't have any documentation from December that the commission agreed to it. So if you want to agree to it now, you know, and propose it, I think that's fine, but if we go back retroactively today and say, yeah, we agreed to it in December, I don't like to set the precedence that we can go back and kind of reform decisions when there's no evidence for them, or at least in my view, there's no evidence. Obviously, not everybody agrees with that. That's, I just want guidance on that. It's your policy decision, I think it's certainly a justifiable decision. My point is, I just want to be clear on when we, and it can be retroactive, I'm just saying, when can we say the decision was made?
I think it would be the December 22nd. And I think that would have a bearing on the 56 cents too. Somehow.
Can I add one more thing? If
Yeah.
that's the case, we need to review all these settlement documents.
Okay, well, my fellow commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Is it better we just propose it for today.
It's better if you, how do I put this? I think it's better if we reach clarity on December 22nd. And what I recommend, you don't have to take my recommendation, is that we all reach clarity that we did not agree to this raise on December 22nd. I say that because I've watched the video twice now, I've looked at the union approval letter, I don't see, I've looked at the settlement documents that we all did, I don't see a commitment by the county for the additional 56 cents. That's part one. Part two, county says, based on fairness factor, based on our overall intention was to give raises to all the deputies, based on the fact that now that the numbers have shaken out, we see that we didn't achieve the raises that some of these senior deputies in particular should have. We think in the fairness and in the overall policy intent, we should go ahead and implement that now. What that allows us to do is, number one, we don't have to redraft the settlement documents. And number two, we're clear on kind of, that was part one and this is part two. That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
We
because
didn't take a vote on the 22nd.
because actually 56 cents to back into probably September is when, or October, somewhere's in there with, it might even been August, but I don't know, it was quite a while back when the 56 cent thing was brought up. So if this work out the best, what you just said, I think we should go by.
Which way?
Yeah, what are you saying?
I'm not gonna repeat all that Corey said, because if we want to go back to where it originally was, the 56 cent was talked about and given to everybody was, like I say, August, September.
September 29th.
Oh, okay,
But it was effective July 1.
Yes.
So it
yeah,
doesn't matter if we say September 29th or today,
oh, okay.
if you're starting effective July 1 last year.
Okay,
So, and I'm still not sure what you had said before, Franklin, but I don't know if you want a motion on this, Corey. On December 22nd, we did not take a vote. Therefore, it was discussion. I do stand by what I said personally during that discussion, but we didn't take a vote. So do you want to vote, motion and vote to acknowledge that, Corey, for clarity?
If you all agree with that, that's why I don't know it, because it's a non-action, I don't think we need a motion to recognize a non-action.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that, Amy?
You guys awarded the 56 cents back to July 1,
No,
or what? How he stated it?
back to January. Is that what you meant?
Well, I think we were all talking July 1, but
No, okay.
I'm not the owner of that action, you are.
I was the one that threw it out there, maybe we'd get things moving faster if we didn't go back that far or something, but yeah, all the others got it, so it's only fair.
Right.
So, do you guys agree that we didn't make a decision on the 22nd of December? Okay. So, yeah, to Corey's second point, we didn't achieve 56 cent raises for our deputies. Again, my error in looking at the numbers. So-
Thank you, Brandon, for bringing that to our attention, because I think we all got so tired of looking at the numbers that
Well,
We
we've
just-
all looked at a lot, so I know where you're coming from.
I also want to just go back one step in the coroner discussion. If all four of these deputies wanted to become coroners, they could make far more than the 56 cent an hour. However, that would cost the county far more than the 56 cent per hour raise. So I think when you look at that argument, also, this is the most the 56 cents at this point is the most cost effective for the county.
Mason had his hand first, did you have something? Then Jamie, we next.
Andy, actually.
Right.
Taking the corner pay, I mean, you're right, that's a way to immediately increase how much money you take, but that's taking on a whole other job. You know, I mean,
I understand that, but it was the argument for why it was, doubled. So based on that being the argument brought to us, it's the argument that stands. So, I hear what you're saying, hear what I'm saying as well, but the 56 cents is the cost savings to the county when you look at the two arguments. So I'm still supporting the 56 cent raise.
Go ahead, Jamie.
That helps.
Thank you, sir. Laura, I understand what you're saying. I'm sure if Meehan's here, he can attest. The four corners that are within the sheriff's office are the sheriff, the undersheriff, the captain, and Deputy Martin. I can promise you and assure you that the 56 cents is a good avenue, because me personally, I speak on behalf of Brandon, and I'm positively, almost certain that the other two deputies want absolutely zero to do with coroner duty. Not because it's not a rightful end to a bad situation, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure, positive, that not all of us want to become coroners, not now and certainly not in the near future, unless it's absolutely required to that point, if that makes sense.
I appreciate that. I will just throw out that one of the commissioners in Gallatin County is one of their coroners. I don't want the job either. That's a whole different skill set that I don't have, and admire those that do. So, I don't think we have a choice here.
No.
I think that we have to do the 56 cents for all elected officials and their deputies, to the percentage, however it dwindles down.
I agree. Is that a motion?
It's not one I want to make, but it's the right thing to do. Yeah, it's a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so we move to second. Give the 56 cent raise to the deputies as all other county employees got. All in favor of the motion? Okay.
We'll back up, that was not the motion, Franklin.
So
I
it
think
won't be 56 cents for all the deputies. It will be a percentage of the
Percent,
increase of
yeah.
the sheriff's
Yeah, we talk
salary.
about that all the time. Okay.
Sorry.
Ann, would you read back the motion, please?
Commissioner Obert moved to grant 56-cent raise to the elected officials with the percentage to deputies required by law, retroactive to July 1st,
That sounds like
2014.
exactly what I
Is that
said.
exactly what you said? Thank you, Ann.
And let me ask for clarification.
Okay,
And that's based on the salary today, not the salary of July 1, 2014. Is that accurate? Because those are two different things.
Oh, yeah, it has to be, because otherwise it would put us out of whack again.
And I know that going to retroactive, those salary-based structures went all the way retroactive to July 1, so those are the,
Oh, good
Okay.
point.
Good
Thank you, yeah.
All right.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Motion passed.
So again, I just want to give a shout out, thank you to Brandon for helping me to relook at these numbers. Nicely done.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. And Aaron, thanks for bringing this forward again.
absolutely. Thanks for entertaining us again.
You betcha.
I was gonna have to do the motion,
Cocktail pasties.
cocktail pasties.
Well, like I said, invite me on a Wednesday and we'll do it. They're not open on Mondays. I better extend them anyways, huh?
No. Just something to tease you about.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, both of you.
Thanks.
tell you to bring some next time you come over.
If you want, I can cover the internet service one really quickly, and then we can,
Okay.
The last step that's needed to finally fully dismiss the sheriff's office lawsuit is I just need the signed amended budget resolution and a signed salary resolution. And then I'll give those to Jane Merson, and she'll file a motion to dismiss. When that's done, there's no reason to hold up the internet service for any reason.
Will you let us know via email so we can forward that to Garrett and Doug?
Yes, can I get like the signed of those, the amended budget and
Sure.
the salary
Remind me
resolution?
when the meeting's over and I'll get it.
Thanks, Cory.
Thanks,
Thank
Cory.
you.
Was that the 215 issue? Okay, yeah, Brenda's not gonna be in for a little bit, so.
Okay, that's all we need to finish that.
And Mike and Wim and I think Nick were gonna speak on that as well, the need, so.
Okay.
As soon as we get that done, it will help us save some money, pay for raises.
All right. Are we meeting?
That's what I was just gonna talk to you about.
Okay.
Can we make it quick?
Say again?
Can we make it real quick?
You guys been waiting long enough, we're gonna jump ahead on our agenda and Go ahead with your, Corey, with your update, and Justin.
Should we join you guys at the table then?
It's whatever you want.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. Did we not get a confirmation from the other stakeholders?
We did, and I thought it was in the affirmative.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't think they're here.
It'll be us.
Yeah, exactly, Barney. Or maybe they're just late.
Come on, Phil. Weird, yeah. Sit way over there.
That way I'm out of the video.
So, with me is Bill Knob. He's a fuels technician that works out of our zoned fires program here in Townsend Ranger District. I think commissioners probably know Phil. I think. Yep. K-N-A.
Canal.
But it's pronounced Knob.
Not America.
I guess, just to dive right into it, 'cause I'm sure you got a lot on your agenda. I think what we try to do is have some quarterly planning meetings, mostly informational, agency update, that kind of stuff. So, I got a whole laundry list of stuff to chat about. One of them is kind of just spring fire and fuel projects and that kind of stuff. So Phil joined me. And then I don't know everything you want to chat about, Justin, or? Would you like me to start?
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's start this kick off on fire because it's a warm, sunny day when it's not supposed to be in March. But so just real quick, we're looking at starting our spring burning program. We're going to be looking at several locations just here on the front range of the Elkhorns. We actually started last week doing some pile burning in Cabin Gulch, part of the vegetation project. You may have seen some smoke on that, I don't know. And that's kind of the very quick and short of it. And Phil has provided some other information. He helped put a lot of the contracts together in regard to some of the slashing work. Knows the details way better than I do. And that's why he's here with me. So on that note, I'll kind of kick it to Phil and
Yeah,
describe
I brought
what we
maps
did.
if any of you folks are interested, would you?
Please, yeah.
Basically, it's a rundown on what we hope to accomplish, just the map. Kimber Weasel, it's the one you can see right from Silos if you look to the west. We worked on it last year a little bit. The amount of fuel that was left there after the elk winter, there wasn't enough, and then the snow come off the way. So we're gonna try and wrap that one up this spring, possibly with aviation resources. So there could be
Nice.
helicopters flying around up there. As with the Wagner Atlanta, these are, it's more closer to White Sulphur Springs, and actually majority of them are in Mark County. But those were,
These ones?
yep, those were slashed last year, so the stuff that we cut should be red this spring, so it'll be easier to burn. And then finally, our Crow Creek 29, we've been picking away at this one for a couple of years. And that's of course in the Elkhorn Mountains. And we should be wrapped up with that one this spring. Even if we don't get it burned, we're gonna go ahead and take it off the list just because the ranchers have to provide some rest and grazing, and we've impacted their grazing operations for a little bit, so we're just gonna go ahead and call it completed if we don't burn it this spring. And other than that, other than the burning, there's just our standard slashing. Cabin Gulch, we might have a little bit there. And then there's some in the 1988 project, which is just north of the Kimber Weasel that we've been working on. So that's all we got for this spring.
So most on this side over here is that Slim Sam area then, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been working in there, since I started. So some of those units we've burned, I've burned 3 times.
So you cut the brush too, didn't you?
Yeah, most of them, that's the only way to get it to burn in there, so. And as always, there's an open invitation for you folks to come out and watch anytime. So just, we'll make sure to let you guys know, and if you wanna come out, you just give us a holler.
I would.
I would too.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that you guys are getting a heads up.
Okay.
a day is probably the best we can do, you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Understandably so.
I was in a fire when I was in the fire
Yeah.
department.
so that's all I have. You guys see me around or give me a call direct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. I think just the last couple, a lot of our fields program is zoned at the Helen Ranger District, and so we got folks kind of going all over the place. And I know they're gonna be looking at doing some burning in Jimtown starting tomorrow. And like Phil said, it's all just very conditioned, whether the right weather shows up and wind conditions and temperature, humidity, all that kind of stuff. So even on the invite perspective, it sometimes will be very short notice, like, yep, it's looking probable. And even on that note though, the day of, when we're planning on burning, we may decide not to do it. So it could be a real last minute no or yes, so. Okay, thanks Phil. Any questions on spring burning stuff?
Just one as far as moisture goes. What are you observing as far as, this beautiful winter we've had? At
Well,
least
our
in-
snowpack was above normal. I think you
Oh.
could speak to that a little more. Our snowpack was above normal. And then if you wanna start talking into fire danger and fire season, really it's the month of June that determines what will happen.
Okay,
By the amount of precip and moisture we get and how much and at what time. If it comes all at once, then of course we're elevated. If it comes spread out, then we're not as elevated. And in the past few years, if you guys can remember, or have taken notice, we have been getting wet thunder showers later into the summer.
Mhm.
And that has been another contributing factor to the reason why there hasn't been that much significant fire activity around the area.
I'm glad for that.
Yeah, I heard that we lost a lot of our snowpack, but we're still sitting right about average, give or take 15% in the state. Does that sound about right, Justin?
That's about right. The upper basin, upper Gallatin picked up quite a bit of snow here last week,
Okay.
but, it's not over here.
Yeah.
In the lower elevations, there's nothing. All the way up to Gallatin on the lower elevations, there's no snow on the ground on the lower elevation. All of our snow-tell sites are above 6,500 feet. As you go up the canyon, they get higher as you go up into Gallatin County, so it is a little skewed. The snow's that high with nothing down low, so it kind of depends on the runoff. We won't have significant high water events probably, as we get rain on snow, and then that'll all come up on time too, so.
I did hear though that January was the second warmest month in history for the globe.
wow,
David Dunn was telling me last week, so,
I'm not surprised,
yeah.
yeah.
But
Feels like it.
just not anywhere east of the Mississippi.
Right, right.
Yeah, exactly. Globe-wise, but, so,
Well, that's good to hear about the higher than average for the prior to January, right? That's when it was
Yeah.
realized.
If you take a look at last year, we're sitting right at about the same.
Okay.
Really, the big picture thing, last year, we got, those cold snaps, but about this time it started warming up and it was springtime.
We got a heavy snow in March last year.
Yeah, and we will
It's
get
early.
that,
It's
we will get that.
Yeah.
late, we'll see another couple inches before the end of before it's all said and done.
well, I remember, it seemed like for 2 weeks straight in June, it rained almost every day, late June last year.
Well, and like I had mentioned, we had those early August storms that would come through that were really wet, widespread, so that was a big contributing factor. Which, is great, and we still, at least as a fire management and fuels person, we still look to have fire on the ground in some form, fashion or another, just because it's a
Can you
natural.
put in orders for not?
Well, the,
For as good as it'll do, not.
for as good as it'll do, we would like to see a fire, so.
Cool. On that kind of suppression aspect, we are hiring our crews back. We're doing a lot of our seasonal hiring right now, just kind of for the district. And we're gonna have 2 fully staffed fire engines in Townsend, and then 3, I believe, in Helena is what it is. So we'll have, between the zone, we'll have 5 modules, engine staffed, ready to go, so. And folks will start, we got some of our permanent seasonals that are already back on, helping us do a lot of the burns, and then we'll get a lot of our seasonal folks for the engines, anywhere late April, beginning of May, somewhere in there. So we're looking to be fully staffed as fire season comes around. I
How
like
many
to-
people serve on one fire,
On one fire in particular, or like an
No.
engine?
engine?
I think ours have, what,
We'll be
5?
staffed daily with 5 people,
Yeah.
7 days a week, those staggered days off. There's 12, what we call seasonal employees on this fire crew here, and another 12 to 15 in Helena. And they're just mainly college-age kids working through the summer. A lot of them live here, there is government housing available here. So for the summertime, there's a little crew of kids running around, helping out.
And we're,
In addition to the permanent staffing, so.
and it's 7 days of coverage a week once we get kind of the peak of fire season, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll have all those engines staffed. You know, a couple of the engines are rotating days off or whatever, but if we need to, we'll have them come in.
And they are available
Yeah,
throughout the nation. A lot of times we'll start sending folks to Arizona, New Mexico, in May, April and May, and then as soon as fire season starts coming north, then the engines just follow the fires.
all right. Any other fire stuff? And we'll be coming back, we'll quarterly planning meeting no matter what, but as fire season starts approaching, I think when I first started, David and I came and gave like a real full update on where we're at for snowpack and long-term forecast for weather, and we'll do that again as time gets a little closer. Okay, going down the list, a couple of these are just kind of updates, I guess, and of course, as always, please ask questions. So the Ray Creek parcel that we closed on last fall, we are looking at doing a few things up there. One, we do want to, in the long term, incorporate the range use that has been in there. We have a permittee who's been using that allotment, that the private land was surrounded. And so this year, our plan is to be looking at some of the rates that are in there. We are gonna look at doing a year authorization to have that permittee go ahead and continue grazing. And then the long term is to just incorporate that permanently in his permit. So we're looking at that up in Ray Creek. And the other thing, that property had a lot of roads that were on it, over 21 miles of road. But the majority of those roads are what we call those jammer roads, those old logging roads. And so we are looking at a proposal right now to do a bunch of road decommissioning. But our baseline proposal is gonna be looking at keeping some of the minimal main roads open that go both down the hill and up the hill. And so the majority of the roads that we're looking at closing are these kind of old logging roads. And if you look at a map, I mean, they're almost just stacked right on top of each other through the landscape. And we're gonna be really focusing on those roads that we know we don't need anymore. So got that going on in Ray Creek, just kind of carrying through on that project. Any questions on that? Okay, that one was easy. So Jenkins Gulch, again, that's technically in Jefferson County, but you guys have been supportive because it's right on the boundary of Broadwater. Our goal was to try to get some grant funding and to close on one of those parcels this fiscal year, and we were able to compete internally and get some additional funding. And we think we're gonna be able to purchase both of those and close on them both this fiscal year, which is great news. We are about $42,000 short on the overall proposal. And so we're working with Rocky Mountain Foundation, and they're gonna be trying to look at some other fundraising options. And because we've got so many other funding on the table, we're feeling pretty comfortable we'll be able to get that additional $42,000. So good news on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. That's really key chunk of the landscape, completely surrounded by national forest and the elkhorns, of course. So we're very excited about that project. So good news on that one. Any questions on that one? Okay. Let's see. I'll stick to the easy, quick ones. Another update. We've got a grant, and we're gonna be doing some motorized work on the trails over in Avalanche and Little Hillgate. We're gonna be doing a maintenance package sometime this summer. So if you have folks that are planning on utilizing that area, they may see some maintenance going on, which is good. Just FYI, no questions on that?
No,
Can a
that's good
person get
news.
clear over the top to what's over that way now?
You mean because of the snowpack?
No.
Oh, through avalanche, or, yeah, I think the avalanche does go all the way over.
There is one
Kinda-
avalanche that comes out Benton Gulch.
Benton Gulch.
Actually goes by the way they're landing.
But compared to like Duck Creek, it's not nearly as good of a road.
Yeah,
right?
it's definitely four-wheel drive.
Yeah, very goat kind of trail.
It takes quite a while.
Okay, so update on Cabin Gulch Wedge project. Things are going very well. We are actually at 97%. The volume that's been treated, harvested, and logged to RY is at 97% of advertised, which is great news. We don't, when we advertise volume, we don't ever really know what it's gonna kind of shake out when we implement the project. Sometimes we're plus or minus 10%. And as of right now, we're easily gonna be at that 100% mark and probably over a little bit. And by over, it's, from the size of a landing maybe, or some of the temp roads that we build, we ended up getting, that extra volume. Extra volume is the right way to put it. But those are the type of activities that sometimes we're plus or minus 10%. So good news on that. RY is, for the most part, they've got a few more units from the original contract. But besides that, they've harvested the majority of the units that were in the contract from last June. We are running against Mother Nature, and so I bet you we're going to be coming to a halt probably sometime this week. We'll see how things hold up, but our biggest concern is conditions on the roads. With snow melt coming off, the roads are going to get muddy and rutted, and so we're keeping a really close eye on that. And like I said, even with weather like today, we're probably going to be putting a pause on Cabin Gulch until probably May, until things dry out and get warm again, harden up. Part of that conversation, RY Timber has plowed, all of the North Fork Deep Creek and all of the West Fork Cabin Gulch and East Fork Cabin Gulch, that whole loop. So it's been open to the public on the weekends. We close it to the public during the weekday for safety concerns. But when RY is done, the roads are going to be, if you will, open just because all the snow's been somewhat plowed. That's very uncommon for what usually occurs, because usually there's snow drifts and things of that nature. And so we're looking at actually doing a public closure on those roads 7 days a week until everything melts out, because we don't want the roads to get rutted and trashed. And if that happens, then we, the forest, will have to go try to maintain those roads. We won't have RY do that. It had nothing to do with it. So it's really in the best interest of trying to keep the infrastructure, the roads in good shape, so that when we melt out, we don't have a bunch of road maintenance we have to go do. So you kind of a heads up, you'll probably be seeing a road closure order coming through the newspaper in the next week or so to close that 7 days a week until everything melts out. And on that note, we're in that mode district-wide, and so if we start stumbling across some roads that look like they're in pretty bad shape, we may be looking at something similar, all short-term closures, just to try to keep the roads in good shape so we don't have to try to do a bunch of grading on in the summer. So heads up on that one. Question. Back to Cabin Gulch, though, some good news also. So the original contracted volume with RY was at represented probably 80% of what the planning included, and then there was additional volume, what we call I always call it add-on volume, but it's subject to agreement volume, because some of that volume is logistically much more challenging to log. So from a cost-wise, it's not fair to include it in the original bid because it costs way more. It's way more challenging to log logistically wise, and so all of those units and that volume, it was part of our original NEPA, it was part of our original decision, but we just didn't go into contract with RY Timber on it. And it's subject to agreement with a purchaser, and RY has agreed to do the additional volume, which is good news. It's going to be, I don't know, I shouldn't even say it, but I think we're looking at another 3 to 5 million board feet of timber potentially. It depends on how things get laid out. So as of here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have our strike team and our pre-sale folks laying those units out. I still think, though, in the long term, we're probably going to be wrapping up all of the logging operations in Cabin probably towards the end of this summer. Again, that's just the logging aspect of it. Then we're going to be doing a bunch of other reforestation work, pile burning, understory, plantation, weeds work, some road work. We're gonna be up in the cabin area for a while, but just from the commercial logging aspect of it, it's probably gonna be coming to, getting buttoned up towards the end of the summer. So, some good news on that. Any questions on Cabin Gulch?
No, but that's good news.
It is, yeah. We're excited about it. Okay, so a new topic I wanted to bring to your guys' attention. We have, I'll back up even more. I mean, throughout the forest as well as in the district, we've got a lot of these really old cabins that were like rental cabins, that we had these 99-year lease cabins on them. And direction in the late 90s, late 80s, 90s that we needed to start doing away with those. It wasn't really to the greater good of public to give a 99-year lease to just one person. And so some of that is kind of popping up on the district and across the forest and the agency as a whole for that matter. But one cabin in particular is what we call the Lundberg cabin. You guys familiar with that? Off of Highway 12. It's right next to Deep Creek. And so, the Lundbergs have had it of late, and their permit expired, I think, late 80s or early 90s, somewhere in there. And we've kind of been in this status quo phase for a while because we wanted to see if we could, one, add it to our rental system. We have several, Railway, for example, or the Eagle Guard Station. We have several cabins that we rent. So we wanted to look at that as an option. And then two, we wanted to look if there was a way to do it, make it like an administrative site. Maybe we could use it as a bunkhouse for seasonal during the summer. So we were kind of in the status quo for several years, and we were trying to address some of those. And a couple of them, one, the cabin is not going to be feasible for a couple of reasons. One, we are already at our capacity for rentals on our unit. Even, I think I briefed you guys last fall, we have Miller Cabin up in Confederate Gulch that we've decided to take on to the system. And so the district we've done tons of work trying to get that ready to be rented back out, redoing the driveway, putting the bathroom in there, new roof, all that kind of stuff. So we invested in fixing it, and now we're just trying to get it added to the system. That has to be approved at our Washington office, and it's a very, very lengthy process. And so, and even that one itself is kind of going over what our capacity is for adding cabins on our system. So we don't have the capacity to add it to the rental system on that one. Second, in regard to trying to make it like an administrative site or for Forest Service housing or trying to maintain it, our facilities manager on our unit out of this Helena office has analyzed the work that needs to get done on that. There's over $500,000 of deferred maintenance on that structure. She's laughing at me. We don't have $500,000, as you can imagine, to go do work on a site like that. We really don't. We have some other seasonal needs already, or opportunities out of our workstation site. And so, to make a long story short, we are looking at removing that structure. There's a liability with having it on there. Two, it is in real close proximity to Deep Creek. There's a riparian area, and NRCS, Deep Creek's a priority watershed for them. And in general, we are not in the business of having facilities in close proximity to a main water body like that. And then three, again, we just don't have the money to do it. So we're looking at removing that facility. I know it's been in the community for a long time. We are having an archaeologist do a report and kind of go through our planning with that. And we're looking at a few options because it is considered significant because of the impact that it's provided in the community. And I can't believe I'm going to forget this, but Phil probably will remember. It was originally built by, I think, a judge here in Townsend, or a commissioner. Do you remember the name, Phil? I've read it, but I can't remember now. But it's been a part of the community for a long time. The structure has. At one point, it was used to put folks who had smallpox and try to quarantine them. It was a rumor that we don't know if it's confirmed or not, but that was in the late 40s, I think, or 30s. It was used as that. And then I think in the 50s is when it transferred from I think it was a judge, over to the Lundbergs. And of course, Lundy's grocery store starting in Helena, and they had one here. So it's been part of the community for a long time. So in a way to try to help look at some mitigation requirements or just trying to preserve some of its uniqueness, we're looking at a couple different options. One, potentially maybe putting a sign down at the railway cabin, because railway and lumber are right next to each other. The lumber cabin's about a mile downriver. It wouldn't really make any sense to put a sign there because no one would ever see it at that site. So we're thinking we might, and we haven't committed to any of this, but these are alternatives we're looking at, is to put a sign at Railway just kind of highlighting one, lumber cabin, and its importance that it had in the community, and then two, using it as an opportunity just to talk about some of the uniqueness of these structures throughout the Forest Service, and these 99-year leases and how they're kind of unique. And so we're looking at doing that. I almost certainly will be wanting to try to do some sort of a story like in the Helena IR and here local in the Broadwater County newspaper, just to represent the structure and again, tell the story about being in the county. And then three, we might look at doing some internal documentation where someone comes out and do some photography work and maybe just write a real brief kind of document that goes over the history of that site. He'll have some photos of what it looked like, and we'd have that on file at the district. So those are some of the alternatives we're looking at. But if everything continues to move forward, we'll be looking at physically removing that structure probably in the middle of the summer. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. And of course, you're more than welcome to ask questions. You have any?
I do.
Okay.
As far as, where are you gonna take the cabin to? Will you put it up for auction? Would you consider giving it to the museum?
So as of right now, by removing it, it would be decommissioning it and tearing the entire thing down. Is what our contract would be. It would be to physically tear it down and then put it in a dumpster and pull it off. I would be willing to look at alternatives of if someone wants to salvage it. I think that would be awesome. If there's some folks in the community that want to look at something along those lines, I would most certainly consider those. From the cost perspective, that would have to be a discussion we'd have to have, because the most cost-effective method for us to remove it, would be to physically decommission it, with an excavator. It wouldn't be too expensive. Trying to preserve its integrity and move it as a whole, we don't have the funding for something like that. So as of now, our plan is to completely just decommission it, but I would be interested in having those discussions.
Is it a frame or is that log?
Some of it.
It's both, isn't it?
It's both.
So that's-
And that's what made it somewhat of a challenge. The original structure was actually really small, and then it has had a lot of additions and add-ons over the years. And I mean, I'm not an engineer, I'm not more facilities engineer, would be able to help you answer these, but I mean, the structure is in very poor shape. I don't know how you keep it in whole and move it. You probably have to section it out anyways, but the foundation's not stable, it needs to be redone. The roof is very unstable, and a lot of the walls are not,
Pretty weak.
the integrity of the infrastructure is not high at the moment. So if we were gonna try to salvage it and relocate it, that would, of course, have a lot of increase in the funding, and I don't even know how possible it would be. So,
Okay, I had to ask.
okay, no, great question.
UCBC worked on the Miller cabin and it was a great project,
Yeah.
so.
And I would be more than willing to have those discussions, and if we could come up with some, it would be great to try to preserve it and move it somewhere. Of course, the cost of it would be a question and how that would happen, so.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you guys would like to have a follow-up discussion with that at a meeting, or,
Yeah,
okay,
I would,
okay,
yeah.
okay. I'll leave it to you to reach out and
You
pester me
betcha.
about it, okay.
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, and I might do it through BCDC.
That'd be best, actually, probably
Okay.
best. We can
Yeah.
get together and chat about some options,
Okay,
so.
So did the Holloway family sell or give back Railway?
Yeah, well, was the Holloway family the one who originally had that?
Right,
Schofield, okay.
Schofield's the last one.
Schofield, but yeah, that is,
but it was the Holloway family.
okay.
That dates me, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is part of Forest Service Management, and it is on our rental system. It's actually one of our most popular rentals we have. I mean, it's usually rented, it's so easy to get to, it's right off the highway, and it's rented just about year round. So it's very popular, so. Just cool, it's a cool site.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's that one.
All right,
Okay,
check.
check. What else do we have here? I guess this one's more of an update too. You know, so we're working on a pretty large scale project over in Crow Creek of the Elkhorns, and by project I mean primarily a restoration project. And we're in the very early stages of what we call our NEPA process. In fact, we're not even in NEPA yet, we're in what we call NIFMA. But it's really just kind of a lot of that internal, what are the red flags, what are some of the opportunities we have in this landscape, what are some areas that we shouldn't go to because of ABC. And we're also working in real close coordination with the Elkhorn Restoration Committee. They've actually done a lot of planning documents in that watershed as well. And so we're